Most people who regret moving to the St. Petersburg Clearwater area didn't make one huge mistake, they made a few small ones. They chose the wrong neighborhood, underestimated the real monthly cost, or bought a house that looked great online but didn't fit their everyday life. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 biggest reasons people regret moving to St. Pete and Clearwater in 2026 and how to avoid making those same mistakes yourself, even if you're totally unfamiliar with the area. I'm gonna give you an honest look at the things that genuinely catch people off guard when they move here. And of course, I'm obviously biased. My wife and I moved here 4 years ago. We started a family here. We absolutely love it, but I think you deserve the full picture before you make a major life decision. So we're gonna talk through the real costs, the real trade-offs, and real things that people wish someone had told them ahead of time. And by the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer idea of whether this is an area that actually fits what you're looking for. And if you're new here, I'm Alexi, your St. Pete Clearwater realtor. If you're thinking about making a move here, there's a link below to book a free one-on-one strategy call with me like many others do every week. And for the French speakers out there, je parle français aussi. Now let's get into the video. Okay, so let's start with the number one thing that catches people off guard when they move here, and that's the true monthly cost of owning a home. Because here's what happens. People do the math on the mortgage. They see that home prices in St. Pete are actually below the national average at around $400,000, and they think this is affordable. And in many ways it is, but the sticker price of the home is only one part of the monthly payment equation. Let's start with homeowners insurance because this is where people get the biggest shock. Florida is unfortunately the most expensive state in the country for homeowners insurance right now. And before you close this video, let me put that in perspective because that is a statewide average blended across a lot of very different situations. And it doesn't tell you the whole story for what you are actually going to pay. Here's the reality. Your insurance premium depends enormously on what you buy and exactly where it is. A newer construction home with a newer roof, impact windows, located away from the coastline in a non-evacuation zone, you might be looking at $1,500 to $3,500 a year. A 1970s concrete block home near the water with an older roof, that number climbs fast, potentially $6,000 to $10,000 or more, and the range is that wide. The factors that drive costs up the most are proximity to the coast, whether you're in a hurricane evacuation zone, and the age and construction type of the home overall. The good news is there are real things you can do to lower your premiums, like choosing a neighborhood that is higher up above sea level, or picking homes with construction features that qualify for meaningful insurance discounts. Now, here's the thing a lot of people don't know until it's too late. Standard homeowners insurance does not cover flooding. Flooding requires a completely separate flood insurance policy, and in a coastal area like ours, surrounded by Tampa Bay, the Gulf, and the beautiful intercoastal waterway, this matters a lot. And whether you need flood insurance and how much it costs depends on your flood zone. In Pinellas County, flood insurance premiums can range from about $500 to over $2,500 per year for a typical residential property. If you're in a high-risk flood zone called an AE or VE zone, and especially if you're right on the water, that number can go significantly higher. If you're in a lower risk X zone, which a lot of homes in St. Pete and Clearwater are, you might pay closer to $500 a year, or maybe in some cases nothing at all. And here's the important nuance. Being in a flood zone doesn't necessarily mean your house floods. It means there's a higher risk and your lender will require coverage. The other hidden cost that bites people is HOA fees. And if you're looking at condos or townhomes or even single family homes in HOA communities, this is where you really need to pay attention in 2026 and beyond. After the Surfside condo collapse in 2021, Florida passed new laws requiring condo buildings to complete structural inspections and build up reserve funds. What that means practically is that a lot of older condo buildings have had to raise their monthly fees significantly, in some cases dramatically. So before buying a condo in this area, you need to review the HOA's financial health, reserve fund, and any pending assessments. So here's what I recommend you do before you fall in love with a home. Add up the full monthly number, mortgage, homeowners insurance, flood insurance, HOA, and property taxes. When you look at it all together, that's when you get the real picture. All right, so now that you understand the cost side, let me talk about the most common strategic mistake I see out-of-state buyers make, and that's choosing the wrong part of St. Pete or Clearwater for their lifestyle. People tend to think of St. Pete or Clearwater as a single homogeneous place, and they look for homes in a wide radius, but here's the thing, this area has a lot of personality variation within it, and the wrong neighborhood can be a source of real regret, even if the home itself is great. If you love being able to walk or bike to coffee shops, restaurants, galleries, and nightlife, then you want to be close to downtown St. Pete or downtown Clearwater in areas like Grand Central District, Euclid St. Paul's, Kenwood, or the downtown itself. These neighborhoods have incredible walkability and a very vibrant urban meets coastal feel. But homes here are gonna be older unless you buy a newer condo or townhome, and are more likely to have higher insurance considerations. If you're prioritizing a more suburban feel, more space, easy highway access, you're gonna look at places like Distant Heights, Seminole, or Feather Sound. These tend to have lower insurance costs and more traditional subdivision layouts. If the beach lifestyle is the whole point of the move, where you want to be able to walk to the sand, then you're looking at places like St. Pete Beach, Treasure Island, Indian Rocks Beach, or the Clearwater Beach corridor. These are incredible, but they do come with higher flood zone exposure, higher insurance costs, and in peak season, heavier tourist traffic around you. And if schools are your top priority and you want the absolute best rated public school zones, that tends to pull you toward North Pinellas County. Communities like Dunedin, Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, and East Lake, where some of the highest rated schools in the district and even the state are concentrated. So the point is, the region is not one size fits all. The best neighborhood for one buyer is completely different for another. And when it comes to actually searching for these homes, these are exactly the types of conversations that I have with every relocation client before we even start touring. Many can only make one trip here in person before making a decision. Sometimes it's done completely remotely, so it's important to have these conversations up front. And this is the whole point of the strategy call that I offer for free. So if you'd like to schedule that with me, my info is below, and you can also scan that QR code so we can have a no pressure conversation about your priorities and what neighborhoods make sense for you. All right, let's talk about traffic, because this one has gotten noticeably worse in recent years, and it's something you need to factor into your neighborhood decision. According to a consumer affairs report from 2025, Tampa ranked 13 worst in the country out of 50 largest metro areas. That's an 11 spot jump from the year before. Now, that doesn't mean you're gonna be miserable getting around here. A lot of day-to-day driving within St. Pete itself is actually pretty manageable. The average commute time here is about 28 minutes, which is slightly above the national average of 27 minutes. The bigger issue is specific situations that can really eat your time. The most challenging commute in this area by far is if you live in Pinellas County, so St. Pete or Clearwater, and you work in Tampa. To get across Tampa Bay, you have to use one of the 3 bridges, and during morning rush hour, the commute from St. Pete to downtown Tampa is typically 35 to 45 minutes on a normal day, and that can stretch much longer if there's an accident or it's peak tourist season between January and April when snowbirds are here. So my practical advice here, if you're gonna commute to Tampa for work, pay close attention to where exactly in St. Pete or Clearwater you buy relative to bridge access. Also, it is worth noting that a lot of people I talk to who are unhappy with traffic in their current city, whether that's Miami, LA, New York, New Jersey, often find St. Pete's traffic is much more manageable by comparison. Okay, this is the chapter where I want to be the most real with you, because I think people either overestimate or underestimate this one, and both can be a problem. First, let's talk about what happened in fall 2024, because it's fresh and it matters. Hurricanes Helene and Milton made landfall here back to back, causing storm surge flooding in places like Shore Acres, Snell Isle, and other low-lying coastal neighborhoods. It was a genuine wake-up call, especially for homeowners who thought their flood zone designation was just a paperwork issue. In terms of what it's like to live here through hurricane season in general, from June through November, you're keeping an eye out on the tropics. That's just part of life here. There's news coverage, the conversations at work, and if it is bad enough, the question of do we stay or do we go? Personally, my wife and I have a rule that since we have young children, if a Category 3 hurricane or greater is expected to hit us directly, we pack up and go for a few days, even though our home is in a non-flood zone and non-evacuation zone. For some people, that mental load is completely manageable. You develop a plan, you know your evacuation zone, you get prepared, and you move on. For others, particularly if you're coming from somewhere that doesn't have hurricane threat, it can be genuinely stressful in a way that takes time to adjust to. The good news is you do get a lot of advanced warning. Typically, we're talking days, not hours. And most years, the storms that track towards us end up shifting. The area went over 100 years without a direct major hurricane hit before recent events. But recent years have made it clear that the risk is real and that storm surge in particular is something to take seriously when choosing where you buy. And with this tropical weather comes the summer heat. From about June through September, it's hot, it's humid, it often rains. We're talking temperatures in the low to mid 90s with high humidity. You'll be running your AC constantly. You'll be sweating the moment you step outside, and outdoor activities shift to early mornings and evenings. Most people who grew up in cold climates eventually make peace with it. I've heard plenty of people say they'll sweat through 100 Florida August before they go back to shoveling snow, but it is something to know about. The last thing I want to talk about is schools, because for families with kids, this often ends up being one of the most important factors in the home search, and it's one where the picture is extremely nuanced. The headline is actually good. Pinellas County schools earned an A district grade from the Florida Department of Education in 2024, the first time in the district's history. And according to Niche's 2026 rankings, it's the #1 school district in the Tampa metro area, and it ranks 15th in the state. However, Pinellas County is a large, diverse district, and the quality of schools can vary significantly from one neighborhood to the next, and even within the same neighborhood. It's entirely possible for a neighborhood to have a top-rated elementary school and a lower-rated middle school or high school just a few miles away. There are a few things, though, that make this more manageable. First, Florida is a school choice state, meaning you're not completely locked into your school zone. You can apply to transfer to other public schools in the district. Second, Pinellas has a great network of magnet and fundamental schools that offer specialized programs that are often highly rated. And third, there are strong private school options throughout the area if that's the direction that makes sense for your family. My advice here is, if schools are a major priority for your move, don't just look at the city or the district rating. Look at the specific schools zoned for the specific neighborhoods you are considering. So here's what I want you to take away from all this. None of these things should scare you away from St. Peter Clearwater. I genuinely believe this area has one of the best cost of living to quality of life ratios in the entire country, but they are things you need to plan for, and the people who move here with eyes wide open, who understand the true costs and choose the right neighborhoods for their situation, are the ones who end up absolutely loving it here. And if you're in the planning stages of a move to St. Peter Clearwater and you want to talk through what this all looks like for your specific budget and situation, book a free call with me. The link is right there in the description, or you can scan that QR code. I work with out-of-state buyers all the time, and I'd love to help you make a smart move. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.